I think this particular discussion will highlight some of the things that you talked about having to know all of this outside information to make sense of this collection of ancient Near Eastern text. So, what on earth does Aristotle have to do with abortion and the culture war now?
Yeah, that's the second part of my chapter on abortion in the Bible, addressing the claim that the Bible says abortion is murder. Right. And this is something that is an evergreen topic. It's never going away. And what I point out is that throughout the Hebrew Bible, the personhood begins at birth. And there are a couple of ways we know that. One is that breath is the essence of human personhood and human life throughout the Hebrew Bible in a bunch of different ways. It's not just Genesis 2:7. There are a bunch of different ways that this is demonstrated. And also we have in Exodus 21, verses 22 through 23, this odd law about what we should do if men who are fighting accidentally injure a pregnant woman. And the two outcomes of that injury are, one, it causes her to miscarry, and two, it causes permanent injury or death to her. And in the case of the miscarriage, the husband imposes a fine. That's it. In the case of permanent injury or death to the mother, the woman, it is talionic justice, or eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, life for a life. And the idea is that that's because she is a legal and moral person. And so in that society, you punished crimes committed against the body of a legal and moral person by doing the same to the assailant. And what that demonstrates is that they did not conceptualize a fetus as a full legal and moral person. Now, this changes when we get into Greco-Roman period Judaism because of the influence of Greek philosophy, because again, this is all about when personhood starts. It's not when a human life starts. It's when personhood starts. And that was associated with ensoulment in Greek philosophy. Ensoulment was the moment that the soul enters the body. And there were three different general schools of thought about when that happened, according to Greek philosophers. The Epicureans and the Pythagoreans said this happened at conception. The Aristotelians said that this happened once the fetus had become fully formed, and this was evidenced by the quickening, which is when the mother can begin to feel the fetus moving independently in her womb. And then the Stoics said, no, it happened when the infant comes into contact with the outside air, when it is born. And so those were the three different main theories about ensoulment. And we have the translators, the Greek translators of Exodus 21, verses 22 through 23, seem to have adopted the Aristotelian view because they actually fiddle with the translation a little bit and change the outcomes of this injury, where the two outcomes are, one, it causes the woman to miscarry and the fetus is not yet fully developed, in which case it's just the fine. The other is it causes the woman to miscarry and the fetus is fully developed, in which case it is the death penalty. And you had, and this is what Josephus says, this is what Philo says, and then you get to early Christianity, and they're kind of wrestling with these three different views. And St. Augustine, around 400-ish CE, is the one who settles the argument on the side of the Aristotelian view. The notion that the fetus does not become a person until the spirit enters, when the fetus has been fully developed, and the quickening is the evidence of that. And he explicitly says it's not murder until the soul is there. And the soul is there at the quickening. And while we don't like abortion anytime prior to that, it only becomes murder once the soul is present. And so that was the consensus view. That was the majority view of Christians until the middle of the 1800s. So the folks who insist on understanding life as and personhood as beginning at conception are really trying to renegotiate the entire history of Christianity's understanding of personhood and when the soul enters the body, and attempting to appeal to the Bible to support that is, as I demonstrate in that chapter, pretty laughable. It's
right. Never for faith-based reasons that they evolved that way anyway. It was for political and power reasons, for power and politics. It didn't have anything to do with God or faith.
Yeah, it's no coincidence that women's rights movements were just getting geared up around the time that Christian men were suddenly like, wait a minute, we need to rethink this whole personhood thing. So yeah, absolutely, it's pretty much always socio-political.
My New Testament professor, one time I was talking to him about hell, and how I had come to the conclusion that it was kind of a religious syncretism, an idea of multiple things coming to, from Zoroastrianism and Greek philosophy and all that. And he said basically that everything in the Bible is in conversation with something else.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself tells me that no, it can't possibly be this univocal, inspired, infallible thing, because it's like if you ever watched any Anthony Bourdain, he would go to another country and he would talk about how the different influences, because of different ethnic groups coming together, whether it was war or migration or whatever, and then you get new cuisines and all that kind of thing. You get ideas change too.
Yeah.
In that same way. And I think the Bible is fascinating because of that.
I think the notion that it is all that any of it is like socially and historically transcendent rather than socially and historically embedded is rather ridiculous.